This week on Nigeria Decides, President Buhari won a historic election in 2015. Can he do it again for generation democracy? With a focus on corruption, infrastructure and the economy. We take a look back at the Buhari administration to help you decide on Nigeria Decides. Hello and welcome to Nigeria Decides. I'm Mark Eddo. Joining me on the panel this week are the PDP UK Deputy Chair, Dr. Gold Emmanuel, and Chairman of the Next Level UK campaign, Dapo Ayoola, who is a strong APC supporter, might I add. And joining us via Skype is Leonard Raphael, who is an expert on corruption at Sussex University in the UK. You're all very welcome. Now, with just hours to go until Nigeria goes to the polls, on today's programme, we take a look at the main issues that concern voters and the government's record. Now, in many respects, Nigeria's three key concerns are largely the same as they were in 2015. Corruption, the economy, and security. President Buhari came to power promising to tackle the issue of corruption, and the latest Global Corruption Index, collated by Transparency International, revealed that Nigeria has made some headway in this, but it still has some way to go. President Buhari's government has recovered over 1 trillion naira, that's about 2.75 billion US dollars in stolen assets. And it's secured hundreds of convictions, including that of 2 former state governors. Buhari was also responsible for implementing, although not introducing, the Treasury Single Account, or the TSA, to reduce leakages. Now, let's get straight to it. I think I'll go first of all to our expert who's on the line at Sussex University. Dr. Raphael, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Now, before I go to my friends here at APC and PDP to my right, I'm going to go to you first. You live, eat and breathe this stuff. You have a PhD and your expertise is corruption, in particular looking at Africa and Nigeria. I'm going to ask you a very, very simple question, Raphael. In terms of tackling corruption, which is one of the major clarion calls from the APC. How has Buhari's administration done, in your opinion, in your academic opinion?
I think that corruption is best dealt with from the angle of prevention. So the measures to reduce corruption is to prevent it from occurring in the first place, using measure TSA. So, however, the fight against corruption, I think, has got better under the incumbent President Muhammad Buhari administration. So you can see that the Treasury Single Account, TSA, which was instituted by the previous government and fully implemented by the Buhari administration to consolidate all cash flows from all agencies of government into a single account, Central Bank of Nigeria, is the biggest plugging into the leakage of funds. This system has ensured that all funds generated by the government are deposited in one account, thereby preventing government agencies from having multiple accounts for deposits and withdrawal. This has really helped stop corruption. Also, we can see that there has been more corruption-related arrests by the Economic and Financial Crime Commission in this administration, although this government has been accused of selective persecution. So corruption has the fight against corruption has really, been improved in this administration.
Now, let me turn to the representative from the PDP, Dr. Gold Emmanuel. Now, this echoes a lot with what the APC, what's coming out of the APC about how this genuine drive towards cleaning house after 16 years of the PDP, is working, has worked, and justifies another 4 years. That's what I'm hearing. A lot of what the APC are hearing in this academic here in Sussex University. What do you see? How do you see the fight against corruption? How do you see it's gone over the last 4 years?
I think the fight against corruption actually started during the Jonathan Goodluck administration, which was the introduction of the TSA, which he rightly said. So in terms of the preparation of curbing corruption, let's look at corruption in its entirety. Corruption is not all about some politician bringing in money or money laundering and things like that. There are so many facets to corruption, which I expected him to mention. You have things like fraud, dishonesty, wrongful doing, deception. All those are incorporated in corruption. So for the past 4 years, we have seen wrongful dealings in the current administration where people have been arrested unlawfully, for example, the rule of law being impeded on, and you have an executive actually performing the job of the judiciary. So if we're talking about corruption, we're looking at the entirety of corruption. What is it in terms of the people who have been arrested? And if you're PDP, you can be arrested. If you're not PDP or you're PDP, former PDP, and then you delve into APC, you're free from corruption. That process alone is corrupt. So we're looking at corruption in its entirety. Has this government fought corruption? No. What government actually wanted to fight corruption? Of course, it's the Goodluck Jonathan government who brought about the TSA. It's good enough that the TSA is now being fully implemented or half-baked implementation, because it doesn't actually work for some people who find themselves within the APC repertoire.
Let me bring in Dr. Ayoola now, from a strong, staunch supporter of the APC. These are accusations we hear a lot from the PDP camp, that it's a very selective drive towards corruption, that you're picking, once you come into the APC fold, all your sins are forgiven. If you're on the outside in the PDP, then you're fair game. That Dr. Emmanuel is calling it effectively a corruption drive, basically. Clearly you don't agree. How do you refute that?
No, I don't agree. And I know what this is all about. This is about the election on Saturday. But the truth is that Nigerians know who and what corruption is. And I agree with the expert that has joined us on this program. To fight corruption, you need to strengthen the institution. So what I ask is this. Nobody's challenging the fact that the PDP administration conceived the TSA, but they had lacked the capacity to implement it because they were afraid they needed. I'll give you an example. One of the reasons they never took off. In 2 weeks to election, this time last year, $292 million were taken in cash off CBN. It's the only reason they said, let it wait, we'll probably do it in future. And it's not just TSA, it's the procurement system, it's the judicial system. You see, so what I'm asking Nigerians to look at is this. Is there a movement towards fighting corruption? The answer is yes. Is this government doing the very best? I say it's a work in progress. We can do better. But we know anywhere in the world, corruption will fight back. And it will fight you hard with those who have deep-seated pockets, with resources with which they can fight back. So Nigerians are not being deceived in this case.
I don't think you have evidence in terms of what you said about the $2 billion. I'm not sure where that is coming from. But there are evidence that the money that is being actually given to market women as a form of bribery by the vice president is all coming from the Abacha loot. So that is corruption in practice when you're trying to buy votes.
Okay, listen. Votes are bought the way you think. That's the way PDP does it. The way votes are secured and guaranteed in the West, where we live, where you and I live in the United Kingdom, is via projects, project delivery, is policies and programs that
giving money to market women is not projects.
Can I move you on to a subject that, whilst we have time, about Atiku Abubakar? One of the feelings that many people have is his biggest weakness is that he's never able to completely shed this allegations of corruptions that surround him. Now, he did say something about how he would deal with people, looters, if he became president, that he would give them an amnesty so so that he could recover billions of dollars stashed abroad. That raised massive eyebrows, the alarm. What is your take on that? Because
let me give you an analogy of a president who comes in and says, I want to fight corruption, which is this present dispensation. Leaving your office behind and running after corruption. Meanwhile, everything you have to do within the country in terms of economy, in terms of infrastructure, jobs for the youth, security, everything is left behind, and you're running and chasing after corruption, which in this case, if you look at the people within his campaign team, for example, they're all corrupt. So when Atiku comes in and says, I'm giving some people amnesty. Now, there's amnesty there for a reason. When people look at situation that you say you've got maybe 30 million, just for hypothesis, or 30 trillion somewhere, and you say, come, I need that 30 trillion, but I'm going to give you amnesty. Now, this government, from some sources, Dizani, for example, gave some huge money to the present government.
This is the former oil minister.
Yes, gave some money now to this APC government, which they've been using to fund their election, and as well as the Abacha, they've been giving market women to buy votes.
That's an allegation.
Well, yeah, but it's there. But what I'm saying is, there is amnesty is there for a purpose, for you to acquire and achieve.
Let's see. Let me go to Dr. Leonard. You've got a PhD on corruption, Dr. Leonard. What do you make of Atiku saying that he would give amnesty to looters if he became the president? What's your take on it?
We live in a democracy, and one of the challenges the current government has faced in fighting corruption is prosecuting the individuals. It is not possible. It is not realistic for him to, to give amnesty in order to retrieve stolen funds, because definitely there has to be some judicial process that has to go through. It is going to be very, very difficult. It is going to be very difficult to achieve.
Okay, final word. We've got 30 seconds.
I'll tell you what. Atiku did not only promise amnesty. He did say, it's not wrong, I would enrich my friends.
Well, you're taking enrich in isolation.
Listen,
he did say, I will enrich my friends.
Enrichment in isolation.
You see, he did
enrich, empower, and give people the ability to be able to show and apply their expertise in a certain field. Is what you call enrichment. It's not giving them money or
put a deterrent on the table, when you do not say there are sanctions for misdeeds, and you say it's all right, as long as it's my friend, we would pardon you. You can steal again.
Okay, we're out of time. We're out of time. I can see things are hotting up. Stay with us because they're only going to get hotter. We'll take a quick break now. So much more to discuss on Nigeria Decides. Join me, Mark Eddo.
And me, Juliana Olayinka, for a series of in-depth programs that we want you to be a part of.
We'll be hosting a series of special programs in the week straight after the elections to analyze the results and what it means for Nigeria and her citizens. Whether Buhari or Atiku emerges triumphant, whatever Nigeria decides, the result will have a monumental impact across the country and the African continent.
As you invest in the people, you also connect with them.
Get in touch and join the conversation on Nigeria Decides Election Special.
We'll be here to discuss this historic event, as well as inviting you, our viewers, to get involved. Join me, Mark Eddo, Priscilla Nwippo, and Juliana Olayinka on Nigeria Decides Election Special.
Oh, where do I start from? It's more than one, I'm sorry. It's absolutely more than one.
Okay, let me be blunt. We are so shameless in Nigeria. No shame at all. Because if you have some shame in you, I think corruption shouldn't be where it is now.
Fighting corruption without putting the infrastructure for the large population of the people to have jobs.
There are few people that are thinking investment. There are few people that are thinking next generation.
Because when you don't have money, there's a lot of tendency, there's a lot of temptation to find other means.
Personally, I think our biggest problem is power.
Number one, electricity. That would solve half of the country's problem.
Get the power right. Economy will align itself because it has the will of any economy.
If investments come into that country, okay, then we create new jobs. We create opportunities for people to start making a living and start having hope in their country. So to me, get the basics first. Get those foundations right.
Power.
Okay? Power.
Yo, what up, my people? It's your boy Davido. You know how it's going down, and you're now watching Yanga TV.
Hello and welcome to Turn Up with me, this Yakin.
And your boy, Mr. Alvin.
In today's show, I'm joined by DJ and host Shopsy Do.
When you think we're going down, we're just about starting.
And we heard some of the best of Afrobeat music.
If I tell you, say I love you, oh. Falling down by the wayside, girl, I've been falling, my love. Joanna, your busy body, busy tonight. Mad. Joanna, making all the dummy tonight.
Feel the sunny heat, pour it up for me, right.
Agape is a kind of stage name, but what's the actual meaning of agape?
So agape is a kind of love, and it's basically the most unconditional love, the highest form of love.
Who would you say along the line or in general influences your music?
Obviously, one of the godfathers, like Fela.
Okay.
The creators of hip-hop were all scholars of my father's Afrobeat.
When I say Afrofusion, bringing house music, bringing Afrobeats, bringing highlife.
Your name, Smade, it means self-made.
Yeah,
So you're someone who always reaches for the stars.
Always.
It took us years of talking and planning, and here we are.
Yeah.
We're just trying to, get to the next level.
I have my label in the US and I have my label in Africa. The label in Africa is doing very, very well. All the artists that represent the label, from P Square to Wizkid, to association with Davido and D'banj.
I wanted, my fans to feel like it was much more than just a show, much more than just a concert.
No, I came to support my brother Faust tonight, and
his first headline show in London. Excited for him. It's been a good time. African music's on the rise.
What are you doing in the UK?
Well, I actually came to support my friend, my colleague, Jennifer's boyfriend, Shege.
So we're with the man of the hour, the man of the show, Faust, the only bad guy. What are you saying?
Oh, sweet boy, Rocky. UK energy is mad. It's mad. It's on 100,000 million. You know what I'm saying? But tonight, I hope that they can even turn it up a notch higher. Faust back, yeah.
What's going on, people? Mansour Bello, and today I'm in the heart of central London to test the public knowledge about the Lion King.
Wizkid or Davido?
Are you kidding me?
My name is Simba. Basically, I come from Namunda. I was taken from there by force. My dad's name is Mufasa, and he was killed by my uncle Scar.
I'll take one more. 3 for the honey. Hey. 4 for the fun when you say, yeah, bum, 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 bum.
I didn't actually expect you. Is there milk? Do you want milk?
Cow milk.
Can we have milk, please?
Milk.
Milk.
Hello and welcome back to Nigeria Decides. I'm Mark Eddo and I'm pleased to welcome back our panel, Chairman of the Next Level UK campaign, Dapo Ayoola, and PDP UK Deputy Chair, Dr. Gold Emmanuel is with us. And now joining us down the line from Lagos is the political journalist and commentator, Sulaiman Aledeh. Very welcome, Sulaiman. Now, Nigeria's economy grew 2.4% in the 3 months to December 2018 compared to the previous year. And that's the fastest growth figures since the third quarter of 2015. Now, in terms of employment, the government plans to train up to 10 million Nigerians under a voucher system in partnership with the private sector. It's also supported state governments with a bailout that would enable them to pay workers on their payrolls and also pay outstanding pensions. So we're going to talk now about the economy and how well the Buhari administration, or how badly, depending on who you ask, they have done with regards to the economy. And I'm going to go down the line to Lagos, to Sulaiman, one of Nigeria's foremost political watchers. Sulaiman, you're very welcome on Nigeria Decides. Always great to have you here. Now we're talking about, we're at the 11th hour, Sulaiman. It must be very interesting times for you over there, because I know you have your own program as well, where you interview people about these things. Let's just talk about the economy first. Would you say, first of all, you know, I know that the Buhari administration pushes corruption as being one of their main watchwords, but the economy is fundamentally the thing on everyone's minds, or most voters' minds, as they reach for their PVC cards and head to the ballot boxes in a few hours.
Well, I think, Mark, it's a fine moment for Nigerians in the next 48 hours that we go into the poll. And as you have rightly highlighted, these are some of the things that will move voters to vote for the governing party or the opposition or any other third force, as some Nigerians have called the new entrants into the political sphere. But basically, when they talk about the fight against corruption, I'll go back to what Transparency International has said in 2019 in its report, and they have scored the government of the day 2.7 out of 10. And it's also the same mark they gave to the Jonathan administration in 2012, the same 2.7. So 2.7 in 2012, the Buhari administration is also scoring 2.7 in 2019 in its result. And sadly, Nigeria is still ranked at the bottom, 20% of Transparency International in terms of their corruption ladder. And that is a pretty sad one. But again, if you look at what is happening in the country, the government will say, well, what Transparency has been looking into is looking into the public sector corruption. But the government will always remind the people that they have done pretty well in terms of the private sector corruption, looking at the bank verification number, which they say they've been able to plug all the loopholes that go out. Yeah, the BVN, which has gone, I think,
Sulaiman, I want to turn you, though, to the economy. We've seen a massive recession, like the recession of all recessions, and we saw a subsequent fall in the oil price. These are the things that greeted this government when it arrived. Yet the economy we're starting to see is not by much, but is starting to grow again, at least in the last figures. How do you assess the government's record on the economy?
I think, sadly, they haven't had a very good spokespeople to tell the people what exactly they've been able to get so far. I think empirical evidence, is out there showing significant growth. And for instance, the government's Anchor Borers program, which has helped small-scale farmers. And for the very first time, we have seen a great reduction from the tune of billions getting into millions in terms of rice importation. And that's a big point for the government. But quite frankly, a lot of people don't know about this because it would seem as if the people that are supposed to tell the nation what exactly they're doing were quite busy doing something else. So coming back to what is happening, in terms of food inflation, that is the big thing there. People would want to ask the question, how does this put food on the table?
Yes.
Headline inflation is quite different from food inflation. So for the Nigerian out there on the street, if this doesn't actually translate into ease of him getting food to eat on a daily basis, they still think that the government hasn't actually done quite well. But if you look at where they're coming from and where they are at the moment, it's a big plus for them so far. But it's coming in trickles. And you look at the program, this is the first time we're getting to see that the country is getting to do its own fertilizer program, not importing fertilizer, not importing rice. Locally grown rice is actually one of the big things that the government has been able to do so far. But a lot of people would still say a lot of people are hungry out there. How you can put this whole economics on, on paper, right, to mean something on the table for the ordinary Nigerian is something that I think that the government should try as much as possible to let them in on. But again, it's just 48 hours to the election. How well have they been able to sell that to the people is what we'll see on that day, February 16.
And this is those things that you call for, that you say are needed, is exactly what Emmanuel, I think, will say the PDP is going to provide for us if they come into power. But Gold, before I ask you kind of what your take is on the economy and maybe what you could do better, let me just read you some of these statistics that I have in front of me. Since the Buhari administration came into power, 7 million Nigerians are actively employed in agriculture. Local production of rice has doubled since 2015. They've reduced their reliability on imports, as Sulaiman says. $1 billion of private sector investment has been seen, and $82 billion, US dollars, not naira, dollars, has been made available to farmers for rice, wheat, maize, and cotton in agriculture. Agriculture being one of the biggest employers of Nigerians. So these are the figures that the APC would tout. But you no doubt are now going to say they failed on the economy and you can do better.
The economy is in a mess. We know that. You mentioned 7 million jobs gained within the agricultural sector, yet we're importing, not exporting, we're importing rice. Is that the situation?
No.
What is it?
We've reduced rice importation to near zero.
You reduced rice importation, not like we're exporting rice.
No, the rice.
Right, so that is the
one of the things that the APC will shout.
So
if
we're employing 7 million people into agriculture, then we should actually be exporting, not importing. Secondly, there is a drop in terms of the youth unemployment in Nigeria.
Employment, yeah.
All right, so youth unemployment has gone up to 8 million. So when they came in, it was around 2 million, and now it's gone. Yeah, of course, and now it's gone up.
You want to check your facts?
That is fact, and now it's gone up to 8 million. And in terms of the production of or importation of rice reduction, that isn't what we should be talking about. We should be talking about exportation of cocoa, for example, exportation of this rice that they're making the importation to be less. We should be exporting things and not just bank on the oil money.
What do you make of the Empower scheme? They say they've created 500,000 jobs for graduates.
Is that in process at the moment, or is that in application?
No, that's in application. They're saying the Empower scheme was a success. This is one of the things that they're pushing.
So if it's a success, why then do we have a high rate of unemployment, of youth unemployment in Nigeria?
Okay.
I'll tell you what. And she does have a point that employment has gone up dramatically in the last 4 years.
I'll tell you what, when this mess was created, that now is history. The future is that the economy of Nigeria is moving to the next level.
What level?
The next level, don't take my words, look at the international community and look at what it said. Our economy is growing.
International community says Nigeria is now the world capital
I kept
in
quiet
poverty.
for you. If you give me space.
No, but I
understand.
Allow Dapo to speak. Go ahead.
It's part of the civility, okay? We communicate. Listen, our economy is grown. Mark stated this as a matter of fact. It's in the public domain. You can ask Mr. Google. Economy is moving to... I'll tell you what is missing. What is missing is loose money. It's loose money that has bankrupt people, that is put out there in the past, and that is no longer there. But where we're going now is investment in technology, creating Nigeria as a major tech hub.
What about the argument that you're not moving fast enough? That the economy, that the number of people needing jobs, that the population growth, that you're moving too slowly. What do you say about that?
That is a fact that we would begin to move further. It takes much longer to do a solid foundation and allow the cement to cure before you build on it.
What foundation is this?
You rush into all of these things, then you have a collapsed economy.
But we're in a rush.
Yes, we are in a rush because we have successfully moved Nigeria out of recession. Okay, we moved from economic recession, and now the economy is being stimulated. Now, what do you do to put food on the table of the individuals? It's trader money. Okay? It's boost the confidence of the individuals. It's talk to the rural farmers. It's empower the rural. She's talked about export. When we had deficit of import, and you need to first neutralize that, and then feed your people before you go to export. The strength of this is that the first move is to become self-sufficient. Once you become self-sufficient, then you can talk about export. You don't wake up from nowhere and begin to imagine.
Let me take you back to something. Wait, one second, Dr. Emmanuel. You mentioned trader money, farmer money, market money. Some people out there will not quite understand what these programs are. This is interest-free loans that the government was giving. The APC government. They are saying this was a massive success, huge success. And they had an anchor borrower program for 33,000 farmers, which lifted apparently many people out of poverty. First of all, quickly, how successful have those programs been, in your opinion?
This program is very successful, and the next level is going to consolidate on that. I tell you what, the ordinary trader out there who is getting this money is identified. It's not a gift, it's a loan. It's documented, it's recoverable because this person is known. And they are not asking for so much.
So when this trader money
I'm coming. From this trader money to what the Bank of Industry is doing, the Bank of Agriculture, how they're supporting, okay, the ordinary man on the street, the trader in the open market. You need to see, you need to go out there and talk
Dr. Gold, you have the right to reply.
These are selected areas. You go in there, you take a bacha loot and the money given by the Zeni, and then you go to them, I'm giving you this looted money, and I want you to pay tax or interest on that looted money. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. I would tell you what the government should be doing. The government should not be using money which is meant for the whole of Nigeria and then go to a selected area where they believe they can get, where they believe they can get
Nigeria is my dear
abacha loot. Where they,
when they go to national money,
I think it's my turn to
national post.
I'm thinking it's my turn to speak. So when they go to a specific area of Nigeria which is designated for APC, where they think that APC is going to win that area, and go to market women and say, take this 10,000, give me back X and Y interest in the end of the day. But let me tell you why that isn't working, because that is the money for Nigeria. It's not meant for selected few.
Isn't it better going into the pockets of a market woman than a rich man, than a big man?
No, it's meant to go into the economy. It's meant.
How do you pump into the economy?
You don't go in
on the street.
You don't go in and bribe market women. What they're doing is bribing. You don't use abacha loot to bribe people. So it doesn't work that way.
Listen, what is being used to fund this, Mark, 1 minute, what is being used to fund this is not just abacha loot, but also...
Oh, not just abacha, so you agree it's abacha loot.
Okay, APC, PDP, we need to take a break. We need to take a break. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. So much more to discuss. We'll be right back, and then you can shout at each other in part 3. Okay, we'll be right back.
And join the conversation on Nigeria Decides Election Special. If you'd like to make a comment or ask the presenters or any of our Nigeria Decides guests a question live on the show, then give us a call on 0044 7943 226 511.
Join me, Mark Eddo,
and me, Juliana Olayinka, for a series of in-depth programs
on Nigeria Decides Election Special.
If Nigerians can take our money that we send, then our vote should count. We have a say.
Yes, they still are a fundamental aspect of Nigeria. They still contribute to the economy.
We still go home, we still remit money home. This year alone, it's about 28.7 billion.
For whatever reason, we happen to be outside Nigeria at the moment. Doesn't dilute the fact that we are Nigerians.
You can see America, when they have their election, their citizens are able to vote abroad. The same happens with this country. So Nigeria should get to that level.
Yes, it would. It would. It definitely would impact.
Because we are more enlightened. We have seen what is going on abroad. We can see and say, okay, this is somebody that we believe will have the interests of people in Nigeria at heart, and I will be able to develop the system.
We're talking about 2 million people in the UK alone. We've got millions of Nigerians in other parts of the world.
It will make most of our leaders actually sit down properly to address some of our fundamental issues, because they know those are in diaspora are not easily influenced by money politics.
The best kept secret in the world, the amazing food that comes out of Africa.
This is today's special. Chef Israel here has something spectacular to show us today. That's really good.
Oh, that's all mine?
That's all yours. But hey.
I think it'll sit better and look better in the tummy.
What I do is bring in amazing chefs from all over Nigeria to create beautiful meals at an affordable budget.
Do you cook? Ah, the flavor is completely different.
It tastes, it's not just creamy, it's sweet, and I like it.
It's time for Nonny Bites, the segment of the show where we celebrate those giving us a taste of back home. And today, I'm lucky enough to get to try some of these dishes. I'm so excited, honestly.
Nigerians will recognize suya, so we've got suya roasted cauliflower there.
Suya flavored cauliflower. Never thought I would love it. Divine. Divine.
I'm not here for architecture. I'm not here on a sightseeing tour. I am here about food.
So you know, as you're turning it, you can hear.
Yeah. I'm on that bookie bookie. So sweet. I'm crying. Tears of joy. Really, this is the king of the quality.
Hello and welcome back to Nigeria Decides. Now we're just a few hours, 48 hours away from the election. So we're talking about those things that matter to voters. I'm Mark Eddo and I'm pleased to welcome back our panel. Chairman of the Next Level UK campaign, Dapo Ayoola, is with us, and PDP UK Deputy Chair Dr. Gold Emmanuel is here. And also down the line from Lagos, the political journalist and commentator and friend of Nigeria Decides, Sulaiman Aledeh. Now, the Buhari administration says it has demonstrated its commitment to Nigeria's transport, power and health infrastructure. The Abuja light rail system has been completed and the Abuja-Kaduna railway line is in operation. And projects that were first developed by the PDP, the APC says that they completed them. Every state in the federation has benefited from some major road project, and over 1,500 kilometers of road have been constructed and over 1,000 kilometers have been repaired. The big one that they talk about is the Ibadan Lagos Expressway. Now I'm going to go to Lagos to Sulaiman and talk to him about infrastructure. Sulaiman, can you hear me here in London?
Yeah, I can hear you.
When you talk to politicians and people in the know and at the centre, what is the sentiment about the Buhari administration and their success in terms of infrastructure? I take you back to Fela Kuti's song from almost 30 years ago, where he said what matters was water, lighty, food, a house. Basically, three of which are infrastructure. You know, it has always been a challenge with us, and it is still a challenge, and it is one of the major headaches for such a massive expanding population. What is the litmus test from there in Lagos on infrastructure and Buhari's delivering on that in the last 4 years, Sulaiman?
All right, Mark, I think it goes back, quite an interesting argument you have in the studios. I think, well, quite sadly, I'm not there to listen to them live. But again, very quickly here, it might also interest you to note that I've gone round and I've had one of those train rides from Lagos. I mean, from Abuja to Kaduna and from Kaduna back to Abuja. And it's quite an interesting ride to note that they have that in place. And another thing that a lot of people always kick about is the second Niger Bridge. And Mark, I'll tell you, if you have your reporters and anytime you come to Nigeria, you should visit there. The work has actually gone that far and they're getting close to the waters. And sometimes when I get on the social media, I see people from the APC, from the PDP, they banter without actually verifying if these are actually there. I smile, but I can't jump into the whole, argument because it will seem as if maybe I'm a party man who's been asked to say something. So the Buhari administration has been able to do that. And I had a conversation with the Minister for Power Works and Housing, and that was in 2017. And one of the things, one of the things Fashola said to me personally when I had that conversation with him, and he said almost all the contractors giving contracts by the Goodluck administration were retained by the Buhari administration. And I asked Mr. Fashola, why was that? He said, well, for them to continue. So the same people who couldn't complete jobs and contracts given to them during Jonathan administration are the same people you've seen delivering roads, delivering rail lines and all that. So I went back again in 2018 and I asked him, why is this? And he said, perhaps maybe fear that truly, if you don't complete this, something truly will happen to you. You'll be asked questions, because time was in Nigeria where contractors can execute halfway and they abandon such projects. Another government comes in, you give them money for same contract, and they abandon that again. So I think for the government,
roads and bridges are one thing, but one of the main headaches is electricity and power, which many detractors of this administration will say they've not done enough, or they've not worked more quickly enough. In fact, hold on, Sulaiman, I'm going to turn and I'm going to put that to you, Dapo. At the end of the day, as I mentioned, Fela said water lights as the second thing. Many people will argue you promised to keep the lights on, you promised to make fundamental, profound change, and we haven't seen enough change in 4 years. That's what many detractors will say. What do you say from your side?
What I say to them is the truth, is that there's a diversification of our energy provision. The infrastructure has been strengthened. There's a problem of generation, and then this government came and introduced the gas to power and injected into that. Then there are saboteurs, okay? The supply of gas became hampered. You got to deal with that. You got to deal with the consequences of that, okay? And you find that. But I say what Sulaiman is saying. I traveled from Kaduna I flew from Lagos to Kaduna, okay, to the Bank of Agric where I once worked. And I did the train journey to Abuja. And it was just, I live in London, so I live in Manchester, and I work in London.
So you're enjoying constant light in Manchester.
I do the Virgin train, okay, on a weekly basis. So when I sat on that train from Kaduna to Abuja, and I said, this is the infrastructure, this is the next level I'm talking about. And if you're in Abeokuta, okay, if you're from Iju, Ifo, Owode, up to Ilaro, and you look forward to moving your goods out there, if you're somewhere around Port Harcourt or from Kayama to Port Harcourt, Bayelsa, East-West Road, Delta, Oron, this is the time for you to vote for the infrastructure that the Niger Delta community has been waiting for. I take you to Maiduguri. Go from there to Makurdi, Jos, Bauchi, Gombe. You find train projects ongoing. I was delighted, Mark. I saw the traditional ruler of my kingdom, the Egba kingdom, His Majesty Alake, rode from Lagos to Abuja, to Abeokuta, and I said, my next trip to Lagos, I don't have to have concerns about road accidents. And more and more people can then walk in Lagos and live outside of Lagos. This is what I do here, and this is the next level. This is where we're taking Nigeria to, and I welcome Emmanuel. When next you're in Nigeria, please do the train. You will enjoy it.
See, APC. We did a road from Kaduna to Abuja, and then it's all kumbaya, ha ha ha.
Yeah, you never paid the contractors.
No. Let me start. It's my turn to talk, and I'm going to demonstrate my right to talk.
Please go ahead.
Please do.
I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
When you have a project, now we're talking about 4 years, and then we're all about the 100-kilometer between Lagos and Ibadan, and then you're talking about things that, why don't you give kudos to the Jonathan Goodluck's administration who made all these things possible? This is the bedrock of the PDP. This was what we put in place. However, when people were kind of like, okay, we want to change in 2000, when you sold the fraudulent change in 2015, everybody said, okay, fine. They voted APC. Now, APC went there, started doing all our project. Well,
but you didn't finish those projects.
We would finish the project if we had entered. If we had
16
Atiku
years.
wasn't in power for 16 years.
It was for 8 years.
Remember, General Buhari was in power in 1983 to 1985. Did he build any bridge? Now, we're talking about PDP, who laid this foundation for these projects to be carried out. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get in 2015. What you're seeing now would have actually been spread across the country. So you don't sing Kumbaya when you've done just Kaduna. It shows you that segmentation that we're talking about in terms of this administration. Why is everything locked towards those areas that voted APC?
Abeokuta?
Why don't you come? Well, yeah, you're talking about what happened in Ogun State.
The second Niger bridge?
What happened in Ogun State recently?
The second Niger bridge?
What happened in Ogun State? Why, if you go to Delta State, if you look at the road between Lagos and Delta, there's so many potholes when you're going towards the east. So what is happening?
What would you
We're
do
not
differently?
singing Kumbaya when it comes to that.
What would you do differently if come this election,
I'm loving that question.
Issuing in this fellow,
I
not
love
this
that question,
fellow?
and thank you so much for that question. Atiku is a man who does not, he's a detribalized Nigerian. He embraces everyone. Whatever he does for the north, he will do for the east, he will do for the west, and he will do for the south. So what I'm saying is, he's not just going to focus on Kaduna and Borno and Bauchi. He's going to focus on Nigeria because he believes in one Nigeria. And he believes in entertaining everyone in terms of, okay, this is your religion, I buy into your religion. This is your culture, I buy into your culture. He doesn't preach hate. Look at how Fight the other day was saying, people come into the country and this is what's going to happen. They're going to go in body bags. Who said that?
Okay, so let me bring in Sulaiman there. Sulaiman, are you hearing? What are you hearing from the PDP side regarding the infrastructure, which is obviously topmost on the minds of voters? How lights, roads, infrastructure, housing, and so on. Are you hearing anything from that side when you go around and you speak to them that is worth relaying to us that you think they will do things differently?
I think first, that was why I did say most of those infrastructures were put in place by the Jonathan administration, but they were not completed during his time. And perhaps that is why the APC will say, well, don't truncate it, give us more time, the next level, so that we can actually get you the full package. But for the PDP in Nigeria, they've been talking about, an all-inclusive government, which they still fault the government of the day that they've not been able to do all that in its appointments, in its, jobs given to some people. They see the Buhari administration as, one that is replete with nepotism, favoritism, and tribalism. And that's what the PDP is selling. But on the issue of infrastructure, it's quite hard for them to say the government hasn't been able to put some of those infrastructure in place. And you mentioned electricity. If you look at where we're coming from to where we are at the moment, there's been some improvement, even though we're expecting this huge improvement as promised by the government of the day. But relatively, electricity has improved compared to what we had before now. So I think another thing that the PDP is trying to put forward is what actually brought the government in power. And they were talking about security, which is quite key here. And they still think that the government hasn't actually, looks like the government sold them a dummy because, children are still being kidnapped. Leah Sharibu is yet to be reunited with her family. Some other persons, it was only yesterday, talking about Thursday, that the Borno State governor was attacked. His entourage was attacked, and some people were killed in that attack, and some others have been kidnapped. So for some, they still think that the Northeast, specifically in Borno State, is still a place that hasn't actually been free of the insecurity which the government promised. By and large, I think these are some of the things that will either work for or against any of the political parties, because the truth is that these two have been tested, and now it's time for the electorate to ask which is best. Are we likely to give them another chance? Should we go back to where we're coming from, or should we want to continue with what we already had? It's just a matter of 48 hours for them to make that decision.
Yeah, I just want to stay with you, Sulaiman, for a moment, because you're there. It's very hard, this question, to answer, but and because Nigerian politics is so opaque, it lacks transparency. If you're in a more mature democracy, say like the United Kingdom, you've got pollsters, you've got a clear indication of who's got the nose in front. But with this one, it just feels neck and neck, still right to the finishing line, at least from our perspective. Does it from yours as well?
Absolutely. It was only recently the Deputy Senate President, Ike Kuramadu, did say to journalists that he can't predict. And that's a PDP senator saying he can't predict who truly will win the election. If anyone is going to be so objective, extricate yourself off the political garb and say, let's speak objectively, you can't for now say. But again, so many things have started happening, Mark, and one of them is, for instance, the Kano politics. It might interest you to note that the man who's got the big following in Kano, Rabiu Konkonso, just about 7 days ago, made a remark which was targeted at the Muslim clerics. And now they have started talking about him in, mosque, talking about him in so many other places. There are videos going about. Everyone is saying that Konkonso is against Islam. And trust me, Mark, that will count against the PDP in Kano State, for those who know Kano politics. So the crowd you saw looks to be reducing. And that is why the man who is the head of the reformed APC, now we're talking about Buba Galadima, has come up with a video that is trending. Yeah, we had him on the show a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. Yes, he's come up with a video that is trending now, telling people not to listen to those clerics who are talking about not asking the people not to vote for one person or the other. So that is it. Then if you go to other parts of the country, Mark, what we see is that, it is going to be a keenly contested poll for the very first time in the history of Nigerian politics now. So, for politicians, they are really some kind of incurable optimists. They still believe that they will win on either side. So we're hoping to see what Saturday will hold. But they still have their strongholds. Don't forget, the PDP has its own stronghold, just as the APC have its own stronghold. And we're hoping to see what these new people who have crossed the carpet, for those who left the APC for the PDP and those who left the PDP to go to the APC, how much of votes they can bring to the table on that day is just a matter of 48 hours from now. And after then, don't forget we have the governorship election, which is on March 2nd. That is another big one. So some people are thinking, for instance, in Ogun State, is a very muddy politics in Ogun State, where the governor is saying, vote for President Buhari on Saturday, but vote for another party on March 2nd. So by and large, we're getting to see a different kind of politics in Nigeria for the very first time. So now let me go back. He's talking about the road to Aso Rock and muddy politics, but let's go back to the subject of real roads. Sometimes muddy roads, as the PDP would say. I'm just going to give you, we've got a few minutes just to wrap up on, if you do come into power, how things will be different, what you will do differently with infrastructure. Gold.
We embrace the whole concept of Nigeria, so we're not going to do infrastructure or build roads in the one corner of Nigeria. It's going to be all-inclusive around the country. Now, let me talk about Atiku. Atiku says he would provide job. I believe him, because what? He's created jobs and he's giving people jobs. He said he will face education and ensure that everybody has rights to education. I believe him because he's opened university and people have, they have the opportunity to go into schools. He's inclusive, and I believe that he's going to include everyone because he's married to different parts of the country. So women from different parts of the country. So I would say if you're voting the next level, which is APC, you're voting the next level of poverty, you're voting the next level of fraudulent activities, and you're voting dictator in practice. Okay. But when you vote PDP, you're voting one Nigeria, you're voting inclusion, and you're voting equality.
Said with confidence. Now she talks about the next level. This is the next level. What is the next level of infrastructure?
The next level of infrastructure is the completion of the Lagos, of the Ibadan-Kano phase, of the Lagos-Ibadan-Kano rail. Okay, the completion of the Port Harcourt-Maiduguri, taking the network through Aba, all Southeast state capitals.
What's the time frame for
Makurdi, Jos, Bauchi, and Gombe. I'll come back to you, Mark. Okay, we will complete the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Rail. We will complete the link road on Itape Warri Rail project through Abuja to Lokoja. We would complete the second Niger Bridge, which is wonderful. Okay, we will come back to that. We will complete the East-West Road connecting Warri, Delta to Oron, Akwa Ibom, through Kayama, Port Harcourt, and Bayelsa, and down to River State. We'll complete the Abuja-Kaduna Zaria-Kano project. We'll complete the works on federal roads, and Nigeria will become a major hub for infrastructure and technology. The Nigerian youths are doing quite a lot now in that area. Education will be more qualitative and will be inclusive. Okay. The alternative to this is back to square one, is to believe that some sinners who have been forgiven by somebody says, sin no more, that you truly believe that they will sin no more. And that they've said what they will do.
You're not allowed to look straight down into the camera. You have to look at me. Only I'm allowed to look at the camera.
I am
Yes.
talking to your viewers, Mark. I have come here to talk to your viewers, my fellow Nigerians, and say...
You've come to deceive them again, like you
listen,
deceived them in your
Okay, we have to take a
manifesto.
break. We have to take a break.
Do
We've
not
still got
vote PDP.
we've still got to talk about
PDP.
Okay, we still got to talk about security, a big issue. We'll take a quick break now. They're shaking hands. That's a good sign. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Join me, Mark Eddo.
And me, Juliana Olayinka, for a series of in-depth programs that we want you to be a part of.
We'll be hosting a series of special programs in the week straight after the elections to analyze the results and what it means for Nigeria and her citizens. Whether Buhari or Atiku emerges triumphant, whatever Nigeria decides, the result will have a monumental impact across the country and the African continent.
As you invest in the people, you also connect with them.
Get in touch and join the conversation on Nigeria Decides Election Special.
We'll be here to discuss this historic event, as well as inviting you, our viewers, to get involved. Join me, Mark Eddo, Priscilla Nwipo, and Juliana Olayinka on Nigeria Decides Election Special.
Perhaps there will be a female pope in Rome before you get a Nigerian female president.
They should give the woman a chance to rule. Because we've been in darkness, we want to come to light. There are things we may know that men does not know.
A woman leadership in Nigeria would really help the country because women are a lot better managers.
I think it's time for us to give the women a chance, and I'm sure they'll do far better than the men have done. Women keep the house, and look how fabulous a job we do.
Everybody, every Nigerian, despite your gender, male or female, if you're capable and you know you have what to deliver to Nigeria, why not?
It may not happen in this generation, but I see it of something that would come up sometime very, very soon.
Even if they're not going to win, at least let their voice be heard.
I believe in emancipation. If a woman emancipates herself to that level that she is capable, then she should be given the same chance as men.
They are part of the society, they are Nigerians as well. Okay. Bringing them into the politics of the country will encourage women to know that whatever a man can do in that country in terms of politics, they also can take part.
I'm going to talk to you about me losing my little finger. Ah!
Do I make you nervous?
Wait there.
We fart, we go to the toilet. When you're living with someone, you get married to yourself. Okay, I fart. I do number twos. In fact, funny story, I run out.
He was sponsored by this big brand, and he broke his wrist and then lost his sponsorship, and then I dumped him.
Oh my God, fear!
So you're still a little bit of a dancer then? Show us a little move, go on.
A little move?
Yeah.
Alright, so do you know
Show us
this?
a little LAX. Oh, put a little shaku shaku.
Yeah, your hands like this.
Right over left.
Both of them.
I'm stiff, you know.
Alright, so I'll give you 2 over 10.
You're rude.
Do you freestyle?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Oh.
Could you get a little turn up exclusive right now?
Okay. Back in the days, any chick where I talk to, I call Ellie, and then Mexico, 18 years, I check us, and then Mexico, heady fine, and maybe be good.
On the spot as well. Yes. Oh my days.
I'm on a plane and I'm relaxed. Stewardess, you hate her. She comes up and tap you. Excuse me, you have to lift your seat up so the plane can take off. You mean the plane can't take off until I do this? Now, I'm no engineer, but I'm sure those 2 big engines can take off without my seat doing this.
Yeah, it's the automated service. It's that middle-class white lady from Oxford. She's everywhere. You be standing next to a lift, she'll be there. Please don't obstruct the doors. Lifts are about to close. It's never Yinka from Lagos, Nigeria. Totally different situation, isn't it? You be next to a lift, she'll be there. Can you move away from the lift? People need to get in the lift, move away from the lift. I had a moment with the police, but they were very helpful. Yeah, they're like, do you need some help, sir? I said, yes, please. And they helped me change the tire. And we had a moment, you know? But just as they were about to leave, one of the officers just had to ruin it, right? Because I was like, hey guys, thank you so much. And he said, yeah, tell your friends we're not all that bad. I was like, really? How about you tell your friends we're not all that bad? You know?
Hello, you're back with Nigeria Decides. I'm Mark Eddo, and I'm pleased to welcome back our panel, Chairman of the Next Level UK campaign, Dapo Ayoola, and PDP UK Deputy Chair, Dr. Gold Emmanuel. Now, with 51%, that's more than half of the voting population under the age of 35, it's safe to assume that the young of Nigeria, the youth, will play a crucial role in Saturday's vote. However, turnout may be low as a growing number of younger voters say they're disillusioned with the two main candidates. Now, I'm going to come to you first, Dapo. If we look back at actually the turnout for 2015, as I recall, I think it was 44% of registered voters actually turned out. And on a scale of across Africa's 54 countries, it was one of the lowest turnouts of voters in Africa, in African elections. So you have a big issue of voter apathy, especially when voters are faced with two main candidates where they can't decide. Many would say that and I've heard this, the lesser of two evils. I'm not saying all, but some people would say that. And that may turn off young, idealized voters who want change now. What do you say to that?
What I say to this is this, Mark. There's 2015, there were other factors that affected youth turnout. It was the air there was that of violence. It was that of concern for parents, and they'd rather have their children stay indoor. The environment is different now.
You're saying it's safer this time?
It's safer in terms of preparing for the elections. So it's safer. So and the youths are more engaged now than before. So what I expect to see, what I look forward to seeing on Saturday, is a larger turnout of youths than we've had before. And this government is an inclusive one that is addressing the concerns of everybody. It's a work in progress. Nothing is finally done, but voter apathy will remain there. But I think we would see a slight increase in the number of voters participating in this election, and that is good for APC. And that is good for, you see, our concern for the youth starts right from the child in the primary school who gets fed, okay? Starts with the quality of education that is being addressed in secondary school. Start with the young adults that is now in need of technology. And see what Nigeria is doing now in the tech market. Wonderfully well. And go and look at the drivers of all of this. Youths, be they in Anambra, in Onitsha, or in Lagos, or in Kano. You will find Nigerian youths who are forward-looking and understand the fact that the next level includes providing support to bring technology and increase activities in that area. So I do expect that a good number of Nigerian youths will come out and participate in this election, and I encourage them to please vote APC.
And you encourage them to vote APC, but at least we all agree we encourage them to vote. We don't want to see under 50% turnout, because that would be a tragedy, especially when you have young, vibrant people who want change. What is the PDP doing to attract generation democracy to vote?
According to Atiku's manifesto, he says he would welcome youths. Actually, they have 40% in his administration. Now, the youths are eager to vote. And I'll tell you why they're eager to vote, because the current system isn't working. They're eager to vote because they have somebody that would include them in his administration. They're eager to vote, like you mentioned, technology, which we introduced into Nigeria. Our administration, PDP, did that, which hasn't been well explored by this current administration. If you have issues like Boko Haram, for example, you need adequate technology to be able to fight insurgents. That didn't happen. So we want, what are we offering the youths? We're offering them that exploration that they want to do in terms of technology, which you mentioned. APC cannot deliver that. We can tell for the past 4 years. Nothing's been done. They're enjoying what we've done before in the past. So it's about inclusion. It's about exploring, giving them jobs to explore their potentials. That isn't the case now.
Do you think Atiku is more attractive to the youth?
Of course he is.
Why?
Of course he is.
Why?
Of course he is. That goes without saying.
Why?
How you wish.
No, why? Why? No. Allow her to answer.
Don't go there.
Allow her to tell us why.
Atiku says in his manifesto, I will create jobs for the youths, for the women.
Specifically?
Specifically. And he would include youths in his administration, 40%. Now, that hasn't been the case of the...
So he's putting figures down.
He has put figures down. Women will be 30%, youths will be 40%. So if you look at somebody that actually have the interest of the youth at heart, that is Atiku. There isn't anything for the youth in this administration. They're dormant. They haven't got jobs. Most of them are actually unemployed. You see youths actually running into depression, going to the bridges, just committing suicide. That hasn't... I can't remember things like this happening during the PDP era. But look at them everywhere. They're frustrated. You look at the average youth.
Let Dapo come in. And whilst you're in there, Gold mentioned women. Now, we still have a pitiful representation in politics when it comes to women. Just 7% of the 70, I think there's 71 presidential candidates left in the race. Obi Ezekwesili and a few others have dropped out. But only 7% of them are women. And if you look at Parliament, only 6% is female. What is the APC, if it does come back in, going to do to encourage more women in the body politics?
What we will do is expand on what we've done and we're doing. When this administration came in, the economy was the strongest problem to challenge. Who did we put in charge? President Buhari put Kemi Adeosun in charge. A young lady.
The person with a fake certificate.
Listen. We'll come back.
Don't go there.
Okay. Put Kemi Adeosun in charge. What did she do? She turned the economy around, took it out of recession, and now we're on to the next level. That ministry is still being manned by a woman today. Okay, so we have this trust and commitment, and that's why you find the trader money. The trader money goes to
mostly women.
We're back to the Abacha loots now, aren't we?
This is Nigerian money being given to Nigerians to stimulate the economy and increase buyer.
To bribe Nigerians.
So you're talking about financial security. Let's talk about the security of the nation, a big issue. We've saved, arguably, some would argue, the best for last. A big issue and a big vote winner if you can get it right. In terms of security, President Buhari's focus has been defeating, of course, the militant insurgency in the northeast. And while the threat of Boko Haram has diminished, insecurities in other areas has escalated, one would say. And I'll give you the right to reply here. I would actually even argue that Boko Haram definitely is not technically defeated, and that was a premature thing for this APC government to say, because we still had just a few weeks ago an attack in Ran where basically Cameroonian soldiers pulled out. They were only there for a week or so, and then the people were left exposed, and close to 60 to 100 people were killed. So there's still issues in the northeast, and increasingly issues in Zamfara, issues in Plateau and places like that. It makes the voters nervous. What do you say to reassure them from the APC
What I say
side?
to reassure them is that I feel what they see, and it is a disturbing development. But it does not take away the fact that it is not a free ride for insurgents as it used to be. Look, this is London. If you know the efforts of the government of the day and the mayor of London to fight the issue of knife crime in London, and it's a continuous thing. And it does not take away the fact that efforts have been made. It does not take away the fact that President Buhari is working with neighboring nations and looking for ways to cut supplies to these insurgents. okay, and identify those who finance them, those who back them, those who support them for political gains. These are the enemies of Nigerians. The problem is not just the insurgents, it's the politicians who back them because they want to return to power. It's those who support them because they want to discredit the government. And the fight, yes, quite a lot needs to be done. But efforts are on and it's been increased, and this government is focused on building relationship with our neighboring communities for purpose of making sure that there's no haven for insurgents to run in and attack and then run away, just as effort is being made.
Okay, say after this election you're looking hypothetically at President Atiku Abubakar, say, and he's now facing...
It's not going to be this election.
Yeah. So let's say, for argument's sake, if that happens to be the case, he's not a military man. He's a customs man, a former customs man. He's a businessman and a philanthropist, but he's not a military man, and I would wager that he probably doesn't know how to disassemble an AK-47. Yeah, so basically, why would voters look towards him to stamp out what a military general is actually taking time to solve?
Okay, I would say, is Theresa May a military person? No, she's not. When you're in a position of power, you bring in experts to be able, everyone is an expert in the field. So we would have people who would combat insurgency. You don't do things, you're not jack of all trade, just like this present administration is trying to be jack of all trade and do everything, you know. You have people that will work with you. You've got experts that you bring in to tackle insurgency, and those guys are going to be experts in the top field. You're talking about Boko Haram now do not have free hand and free will to do whatever. Boko Haram is well equipped now than they were before.
By the PDP.
You cannot...
That's just an accusation,
sorry, what did you say? Be careful what you say.
Do not take my words. Take the words of President Jonathan. He said the financiers of PDP are in my government.
It's my turn to talk. It's my turn to talk.
Okay,
you keep interrupting me each time I try to put you where you belong. You keep interrupting me. Now, the thing is, when you claim to be fighting Boko Haram, you forget the fact that when you came in, Boko Haram didn't have tough equipment like drones and all those things. And now you're claiming that you're fighting Boko Haram, or the administration is fighting Boko Haram. But now they're well equipped because they have more equipment even than the soldiers that that is defending Nigeria. So you haven't actually done anything in terms of fighting Boko Haram and Nigerian security. This administration has completely failed.
Well, we basically are rounding up now. So a final 10 seconds. What are your chances? Are you going to win?
We are going to win.
And you?
Nigerians, I call upon you to support the next level.
Are you going to win next level of poverty?
Your votes will give us this victory. We need it to move Nigeria forward.
Certainly, I call this a draw. Thank you very much.
I won fair and square.
And I wish you did. Thank you very much to my great panelists, Dapo Ayoola and Emmanuel, as well as Sulaiman Aledeh in Lagos, and also Dr. Raphael at Sussex University. That's all the time we have for this edition of Nigeria Decides. We're just hours away from Nigeria deciding, so make sure that you vote on Saturday. And don't forget to follow us at RealJHUK. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm Mark Eddo, and from the entire team here in London, goodbye, and thank you for watching Nigeria Decides.